Good evening and welcome to Primetime News. I'm Sandra Ferdinando.
And I'm Aveksha Gunasekara. Here are your headlines for tonight.
Kehelia and his family indicted in the High Court over illegal acquisition of wealth. Preliminary inquiry into projects during Sajid Premadasa's tenure as Minister of Housing begins. Many factions allege that the Samagi Janabalavegya is not fulfilling the role of the opposition. Sri Lanka opens 300 million rupee Wax Museum honouring Kandyan heritage. Will the subjects of history and arts be removed under the education reforms? United States and India discuss trade agreements. India takes up strong stance on sustainability of local industries, including agriculture and dairy industries. Case file.
Starting off with news here at home, indictments were served in the Colombo High Court on former Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella, his wife, 3 daughters and son-in-law over allegations of illegally acquiring assets. The case was taken up before Colombo High Court Judge Lanka Jayaratne today.
After indictments were served on former Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwella, his wife, 3 daughters and son-in-law, they were released on a cash bail of 50,000 rupees each and 2 personal sureties of 100,000 rupees each. Colombo High Court Judge Lanka Jayaratne also imposed a travel ban on the defendants and ordered them to surrender their passports to the court. Additionally, the court directed that their fingerprints be recorded and relevant reports be submitted. The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption filed 43 charges against the 6 defendants under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act on the 26th of June before the Colombo High Court. The indictments allege that the accused illegally acquired assets while serving in the Ministries of Mass Media and Health between the 13th of August 2020 and the 24th of June 2024, thereby committing offences under the Penal Code.
Case file.
The Colombo High Court fixed the 4th of August to pronounce the order on the bail application filed by Sudat Janaka Fernando, the owner of a pharmaceutical company currently in remand custody over the case regarding the supply of substandard vaccines. The matter was taken up before High Court Judge Indrika Kalinga Vansha today. Deputy Solicitor General Lakmini Girihagama informed the court that proceedings related to this case were concluded at the Maligakanda Magistrates Court on the 11th of July 2025. She further submitted that the original case file has been referred to the Permanent High Court Trial at Bar and emphasized that there is no legal provision to revise orders already issued by the Maligakanda Magistrates Court. Citing these developments, Girihagama requested the dismissal of the current case before the High Court, asserting that it cannot proceed under the prevailing circumstances. Sudat Janaka Fernando has been named as the first suspect in the case involving the alleged procurement of substandard vaccines.
The Supreme Court will hear a petition on the 13th of November filed against the alleged misuse of public funds in compensation payments made to members of Parliament whose residences were damaged during the Aragalaya. The petition was filed by environmentalist and social activist, attorney-at-law Ravindranath Dabare.
The petition was heard before a bench comprising of Supreme Court Justices Mahinda Samewardana and Sobita Rajakaruna. 15 individuals were named as respondents in the petition, including former Defence Minister Gotabe Rajapaksa, former Defence Secretary retired Major General Kamal Gunaratne, and former Chief of Defence Staff Shavendra Silva, former Chief of Police Chandana Vikramaratne, former Public Security Minister Tiran Alas, and former Minister Prasanna Ranatunga, acting IGP Priyantha Veerasurya, and the current Public Security Minister Ananda Vijaypala. The petition requests that an order be issued to recover the compensation payments that were made unlawfully from the individuals who received them. Additionally, the petition stated that on the 5th of February, the Minister of Health and Cabinet spokesperson Dr. Nalinda Jayatissa at a press conference revealed the names of 43 MPs and ministers who had been compensated for damage to their homes during the Gota Go Gama protests and how public funds had been misused. The petition stated that the petitioner has investigated further and that the total compensation due to the MPs and ministers amounts to 2.5 million rupees. However, the petition points out that the then MPs and ministers misused their political power and obtained much higher amounts than what they were legally entitled to. Stating that it is very clear that public funds have been misused, the petitioner has emphasized that a full investigation should be conducted into this incident and relevant compensation should be provided in a transparent and fair manner. The petition also requests for orders to be issued on the Minister of Public Security, the Acting Inspector General of Police and the Attorney General to conduct a full investigation into the incident and recover the compensation paid incorrectly from those who received it.
No one can keep money that has been wrongly acquired. It was said in Parliament that some people have received money improperly after their houses were set on fire or because they were destroyed. It is public money. We also have a right to receive it. Dr. Ravindra Dabare has taken the lead in this matter. We are continuing with that matter.
Preliminary investigations have been launched into alleged irregularities in housing projects implemented by the National Housing Development Authority during Sajith Premadasa's tenure as Minister of Housing from 2015 to 2019. The probe is being conducted by the Permanent Investigations Unit of the Ministry of Housing under the supervision of an additional Secretary of the Ministry. Minister Bimal Ratnayaka clarified details on the matter today.
This is not a new allegation. It has been around even before our government came into power. Interestingly, even political parties now aligned with those being accused, including Sajith Premadasa, have previously raised similar criticisms. In response, the Cabinet has appointed an investigative committee to look into these allegations. We have also established a presidential commission to investigate issues related to Sri Lankan Airlines and the Sri Lanka Airport and Aviation Services. Furthermore, to my knowledge, inquiries are also being initiated into corruption and malpractice within the Colombo Municipal Council and other local government institutions. Allegations against Sajith Premadasa have persisted across multiple governments and for many years. Therefore, the most appropriate course of action is to conduct a thorough investigation and ensure that he faces the inquiry properly.
Meanwhile, during a media briefing held in Colombo today, United Socialist Party General Secretary Siritunga Jayasuriya accused the Samagi Jana Balawege of failing to fulfill its responsibilities as the opposition.
This is a government without an opposition. Even if the opposition speaks, they never speak of anything important. They blabber like rowdies do. Honestly, the opposition has no plan. The opposition has no unified vision on socio-economic aspects to lead this country. The Samagi Jana Balawege is the largest party in the opposition. Even that main party, the one holding the post of opposition leader, has no proper plan. All they do is pick bits and pieces to criticize randomly. The opposition is not raising public awareness. They don't participate in public protests. They don't invite workers or call them to action. However, while Parliament itself has turned into a complete joke, we can see that the people's power is rising from outside of Parliament. The opposition is asleep. It is a party that refuses to wake up.
මම හිතන්නේ මට සාධාරණ සැකයක් තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ මිනිහත් ඉතින් ටිකල් කහපු මිනිහෙක්නේ. ඒ නිසා එයාත් ඉතින් බයයි.
සමගි කරපරවේගේ മന്ത്രിවරු කිහිප දෙනෙක් මේ කුමන්ත්‍රණයක් ගෙනියනවා කියලා ආරංචියක් තියෙනවා කියලා අද කර්ලියට ආවා.
නෑ ආරංචි නෙමෙයි මොලේ කලඳක් තියෙනවා නම් මම කියන්නේ සජිත් ප්‍රේමදාසට විරුද්ධව ඔය හැමෝම පෙනී හිටිනවා. මොකද සජිත් ෆේල් නේ ඇත්තට ගත්තොත්.
A group of civil society activists formed a shadow cabinet in Colombo yesterday, citing the failure of the main opposition party, the Samagi Jana Balawege, to fulfill its responsibilities and engage meaningfully with the public.
If the opposition is not willing to form a shadow cabinet in Sri Lanka, then what choice do we have? It is now up to intellectuals, professionals and informed citizens to come together and establish one. Today marks the first step in that direction. We are extending an open invitation to academics, professionals and officials from all walks of life, regardless of political or party affiliations, to join us in organizing the people. We are forming a shadow cabinet that mirror those in President Andrew Kumar Dissanayaka's current cabinet, with the goal of supporting national development through public engagement. This is not a conspiracy. This is not a rebellion against the government. This is a program to lead the government of Sri Lanka to protect and uphold the sovereign power of the people of Sri Lanka.
Three candidates representing the Samagijana Balawege at the Talava Pradeshia Sabha announced their resignation from the party at a media briefing today. The candidates cited dissatisfaction with the party leadership and internal issues as the reasons for their decision.
Political leaders know very well how much effort we've put into building a political presence in the Anuradhapura district. With that knowledge comes a responsibility. They must listen to us and ensure justice for those who have worked tirelessly on the ground. If party leaders treat us as insignificant and won't spare even a moment to hear us out, then there's no point in continuing in this political journey. That's a hard truth life has taught us over the past 35 years. So we sincerely urge the leadership, don't use politics as a cover to play with the lives of innocent people. This isn't a game. While working with the Samagijana Balawege, we began to seriously question whether true democratic values exist within the party. That doubt has become crystal clear to us today. We appeal to the party leadership, do not let down our youth, who are genuinely committed to this party and to politics as a whole. Don't allow them to face such disheartening situations. We are people who have made sacrifices. This is a main opposition in the country, and from the very beginning, even at the nomination stage, things have been mishandled. I say it clearly. The leadership has not acted with responsibility. This requires intelligent long-term decision making. If such decisions can't be made, then there's no point in us continuing to be part of this.
The Samagijana Balawege expressed their views on the government-facilitated vehicle imports at a media briefing held today.
Before coming to power, the government clearly promised to create an environment where middle-class citizens could afford to purchase a vehicle. But today, taxes on vehicles are extremely high, close to 3.8 million rupees on a Wagon-R, around 4.9 million rupees on a Toyota Yaris, and between 4 to 4.5 million rupees tax on a Suzuki Avery van. Under such a tax regime, it is no surprise that vehicle prices in Sri Lanka haven't come down.
ලංකාවේ වාහන මිල පවා පල්ලෙහාට යන්නේ නැත්තේ. යහපාලන ආණ්ඩුව එන්න කාලේ ඔබතුමියත් පෙනී හිටියා වැස්සේ නොතෙවි යන්න පුංචි කාර් එකක් ගන්න ඒ සිහිනේ සබා කරන්න පුළුවන් වුණාද ජනතාවගේ ඒ කාලේ මම උත්තර දෙන්න මෙහෙමයි ඒ 2000
In 2015, given the situation in the country at the time, you know very well that just 2 or 3 months into that government, tensions rose between the president and the prime minister. That created internal divisions and a dysfunctional environment. It wasn't a government with full unified power. In contrast, the current administration holds absolute control. This is a government that has the authority to implement whatever it wants.
තනි බලයක් තියෙන ආණ්ඩුවක් නෙවෙයි දැන් ඕනම දෙයක් කරන්න පුළුවන් ශක්තිමත් ආණ්ඩුවක් තමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ. ඔබතුමියට ඒක මොනවා හරි කියන්න දෙන්න ඇත්තටම මොකද්ද මේ කියන්නේ? ඒ කාලේ ඇත්තටම ඔය වාහන සීන් සදා කරන්න බැරි වුණා නේද? ඒකට හැබැයි මම උත්තරයක් පැහැදිලිව දුන්නා ඈ. මොකද ඒ ආණ්ඩුවේ තිබ්බ තත්ත්වය මොකද්ද කියන එක. එතුමියම දෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ මම පැහැදිලි උත්තරයක් ඒකට දුන්නා. ඉතින්
නෑ මේකයි දැන් ඒ වෙලාවේ යහපාලන ආණ්ඩුව කාලේ ඔය ජාතික උන් පෙරමුණේ.
Let me clarify. During the Good Governance government, I was part of the National Youth Front under the United National Party. I served as the head of social media and was also on the executive committee. If you look at the advertisement from that time, it didn't promise vehicles at low prices. It promised an economy where people could afford to buy vehicles. Vehicles were being imported for as low as 1.2 million rupees. A large number of vehicles came in, and if you really observe, many ordinary citizens were able to purchase cars during that period. There was an economy back then that made vehicle ownership possible for everyone.
ඒ වාහන ගන්න පුළුවන් ආර්ථිකයක් ඒ වෙලාවේ මිනිසුන්ට තිබුණා.
Newsfirst with the people.
President Anura Kumar Dissanayake said that he will never hesitate to take necessary action for the advancement of national, religious and social development, and that he expects the guidance of the Mahasangha in the governance process. The President made these remarks during a discussion held this afternoon at the President's house in Kandy with the Anunayaka Theros of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters and other senior members of the Karaka Mahasangha Sabha.
President Andru Kumara Dissanayake met with the Anunayaka Theras of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters and other senior members of the Karaka Mahasangha Sabha at the President's house in Kandy today. Several government ministers were also in attendance. The purpose of the meeting was to discuss key national, religious and social issues as per the advice of the chief prelates of the Malwatu and Askiri chapters. The Mahasangha drew the President's attention to the need for timely amendments to various acts such as the Buddhist Temporalities Ordinance in order to address challenges facing the religious sector, as well as other issues concerning the education of monks. Discussions also highlighted the importance of government initiating a structured plan to identify present challenges and to safeguard religious values and cultural heritage. The establishment of a Buddha Sasana Task Force Advisory Council was proposed to facilitate dialogue on the role of the state in religious affairs and promote religious advancement. In response, the President instructed the relevant authorities to expedite the formulation of the necessary legal provisions to address the existing challenges and issues in the religious sector.
President Andru Kumara Dissanayake officially opened the Wax Museum at the historic Ahalepola Valawa in Kandy this morning.
The Ahalepola Valawa, a landmark of the Kandyan Kingdom, was recently renovated by the Urban Development Authority and formally handed over to the Temple of the Sacred Tooth Relic. The Wax Museum was created within the premises to honor the site's archaeological and historical significance. The museum showcases wax recreations of Kandyan architecture, customs, arts and crafts, offering visitors a vivid glimpse into the grandeur of the ancient kingdom. Exhibition stalls highlight traditional industries, while a dedicated dining area illustrates royal culinary practices, complete with authentic recipes. A key attraction is the display of 35 lifelike wax figures representing prominent historical figures including Venerable Valivita Sri Saranankara Sangaraja Thera, Venerable Varyapola Sri Sumangala Thera, King Vimaladharma Surya I, Queen Kusumasana Devi, Munravila Kapatipula Desave, Devendra Moolachari, Governor Robert Brownrigg, Ahalepola Mahadikaram, Kumari Hami and their two children. Designed by Atula Herath, a resident of Gampola, the museum was developed under the Ahalepola Valawa Museum Special Project at a cost of 300 million rupees.
Will history and aesthetic subjects be removed under the new education reforms? Prime Minister and Minister of Education Dr. Harini Amarasuriya provided clarification on this matter today in Colombo.
Compulsory subjects පහක් තියෙනවා, elective subjects දෙකක් තියෙනවා, elective subjects යටතේ list එකක් තියෙනවා.
There are 5 compulsory subjects and 2 elective subjects. Under the elective subjects there is a list, and in the list history and aesthetics are included. All subjects are included. The subjects we recommend under each stream place history and aesthetics within the humanities and social sciences stream. That's the key point. It clearly outlines how a student can make their choices. In the section where elective subjects are listed, we have also included some recommendations on what those electives could be. For example, even students who choose STEM subjects for further learning are still required to study history and aesthetics. When we thought about this curriculum reform, our intention was to develop holistic individuals and not students confined only to their specific fields, but well-rounded individuals. Therefore, we thoroughly discussed and decided that history and aesthetics are essential subjects for all students. Even students who follow STEM must choose history and aesthetics as part of their electives. The same applies to students choosing management. History and aesthetics are compulsory. Even for the students entering the skills sector, history and aesthetics are mandatory. For those in the humanities and social sciences stream, since they are required to take 4 subjects from that stream, one of those must be history. In addition to that, students from all subject areas must choose at least one skills-related subject. What we aimed for with this structure is to give students the ability to select subjects that not only prepare them for the job market, but also help them become aesthetically aware, socially conscious individuals with a knowledge of society and their identity. At the same time, they can gain specialized knowledge relevant to their chosen stream and move forward. Unfortunately, instead of explaining the entire story, some have picked just one slide from the middle and are trying to create the completely false impression that history and aesthetics are being removed from the curriculum. As we see it, this seems to be a deliberate attempt to disrupt the process and mislead the public. That is very wrong. Let's do politics, but let's not drag education and the lives of the children into it.
අධ්‍යාපනයේ සහ දරුවන්ගේ ජීවිත එක්ක මේවා ගාව ගන්න නැතුව ඉඳිමු.
Indian officials are hoping to secure a trade deal with US President Donald Trump at a lower tariff rate that he'd agreed with Indonesia as New Delhi races to meet an August 1st deadline. Trump earlier said the US will impose a tariff rate of 19% on imports from Indonesia, down from a threatened 32%, and will be able to ship American goods to the country tariff-free.
The US president later told reporters that India would be along the same line and again said the US was very close to a deal with India.
Officials in New Delhi said India is seeking more favorable rates than Indonesia and the 20% tariff Trump has said he'll impose on Vietnam, asking not to be identified because the discussions are private. The US and India are working toward a deal that would reduce proposed tariffs to below 20%, with a negotiating team currently in Washington to advance the talks. New Delhi is hoping for a tariff that would give it a competitive advantage against its peers in the region. India believes the US doesn't view it as a transshipment hub like Vietnam and other Southeast Asian nations, and negotiations so far suggest India's tariff rate would be better than those countries. US President Donald Trump has said that Washington and Delhi are very close to finalizing a trade deal.
We've made deals with a lot of great places, but we had one yesterday, that was announced. We have another one coming up, maybe with India, I don't know, we're in negotiation. When I send out a letter, that's a deal. In other words, that's a deal. They don't want to ever say that, oh, how many deals have you made? The best deal we can make is to send out a letter. And the letter says that you'll pay 30%, 35%, 25%, 20%, in one case 50%, Brazil. And because what they're doing to their former president is disgraceful. I know the former president, he fought like hell for the people of Brazil, that I can tell you. And I believe he's an honest man. I think what they're doing to him is terrible. So, yeah, we have some pretty good deals to announce, but every time we send out a letter, that's a deal. The big one really is going to be on the 150 countries that we're really not negotiating with, and they're smaller. We don't do much business with them. Because you have a lot of countries, you have over 200 countries, a lot of people don't know this, but we'll have well over 150 countries that we're just going to send a notice of payment out, and the notice of payment is going to say what the tariff, and it's all going to be the same for everyone, for that group. They don't, they're not big countries, and they don't do that much business. It's not like the ones that we've agreed with, like China, like Japan, where we're negotiating with them, but I think probably we'll live by the letter with Japan. We're very close to a deal with India where they open it up. Indonesia yesterday was, it wasn't an open country, now it is. And they have tremendous copper, quality copper, and probably the most copper. And we made a deal with Indonesia. We pay no tariff, 0, and we have total access to trade. That's a phenomenal deal for our companies.
India and the US have been locked in intense negotiations over the past few months, aiming to reach an agreement before steep tariffs kick in. Until recently, the US was India's largest trading partner, with bilateral trade reaching $190 billion. Trump and Modi have set a target to more than double this figure to $500 billion. India has already reduced tariffs on a range of goods, including bourbon whiskey and motorcycles, but the US continues to run a $45 billion trade deficit with India, which Trump is keen to reduce. Japan sank into a trade deficit of 2.2 trillion yen or $15 billion for the first 6 months of this year, according to government data released today, as exports were hit by President Donald Trump's tariffs. In June, Japan's exports slipped 0.5% from a year earlier after its shipments of vehicles and other products were slapped with a 25% tariff. Trump has postponed implementing that higher import duty until the 1st of August to allow time for negotiations, but so far no deal has been reached. Exports in June totaled nearly 9.2 trillion yen or $62 billion in the second straight month of declines. Japan's exports to the United States fell 11% in June, with auto exports plunging 25%. Shipments to China decreased by nearly 5%. Exports to Mexico, a major auto assembly hub for North America for Japanese automakers, fell nearly 20%. Prime Minister Mark Carney has announced that Canada will restrict tariff-free import of cheap foreign steel to help domestic manufacturers reeling from levies imposed by the US. Speaking at a news conference in Ontario, Carney also pledged to diversify its trading partners away from the US and prioritize the use of Canadian steel.
We'll see what the final agreement is. If there is an agreement, we're working towards an agreement in a constructive manner. Obviously, it's an agreement. There are both sides, and things will be structured accordingly. I think what's important, if I can bring it back to the situation here in the steel sector, is that the U.S. trade deals with other countries, and also the case when the U.S. doesn't have a trade deal with other countries, are going to involve very high tariffs. And one of the consequences of those very high tariffs is it pushes product, steel in this case, and their derivatives, into a Canadian market that has historically been quite open. So it's important that we protect our market from those secondary effects, if you will, from the U.S. Negotiations.
The announcement comes in the wake of punitive tariffs imposed by President Donald Trump. First, a 25% levy on Canadian steel in March, later doubling it to 50% in June.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Economic Development Dr. Anil Jayanth states that discussions are ongoing regarding further reducing the reciprocal tariff rate imposed by the United States.
This is not an issue between us and the United States. What I mean is the tariff policy introduced by the United States in its dealings with the world has created an unfavorable situation globally. We've been discussing this from the beginning. The way some media outlets portray this as though it's the only way to manage the economy is, in my view, not quite appropriate. However, from the industrial side, especially regarding our exports, we have intervened appropriately and held discussions with the relevant US government institutions. As a result of those discussions, even before reaching a final agreement, the originally imposed tariff of 44% has now been reduced to 30%. So we are continuing discussions to bring it down further. These discussions don't necessarily require us to be physically present. For the most part, we are already engaged in them. This is part of a new approach. We are constantly in talks. Just last evening via Zoom and again tomorrow. It's all part of that process. We are using technology to stay connected and conduct these discussions.
The owner of the Hambantota Bird Park, who was arrested in connection with the illegal importation of luxury motorcycles into the country, has been remanded until the 25th of this month. This is after he was produced before the Hambantota Magistrate Court today.
The suspect, who had evaded police for several days, was arrested in Colombo. Previously, 21 motorcycles, including 8 luxury motorcycles and 4 tricycles, illegally imported into the country were seized from a warehouse at the Hambantota Bird Park. The raid was carried out by the Central Crimes Investigation Bureau, based on information received by the Acting Inspector General of Police. Previously, the park's manager and warehouse supervisor were arrested and remanded until the 25th of July in connection with the case. The seized motorcycles are valued at over 200 million rupees. Police also revealed that the suspects had previously been involved in illegal vehicle imports.
Former President Ranil Wickremesinghe described the current global landscape as one of economic bullying and disruption, where long-standing trade agreements forged over the past 25 years have been abruptly discarded.
At the moment, virtually all countries are being bullied. Yeah. But at some stage, a new combination has to come out. Yeah. And we know the growth is going to be in Asia. There have been America and Asia. Europe is not is a no-go area. Yeah. And what you're seeing now is a complete disruption of trade. Trade agreements which had come out 25 years now is being thrown away, and new arrangements, not even agreements, are being put in place in something like 8 weeks. So the disruption is such, we still don't know what the impact will be on the global economy. As it is now, the Wall Street Journal reported yesterday, inflation is going up in US. So there is a big uncertainty, and there is a big question mark over what the next phase will be. The globalization is there, world is going, and we are getting left behind. Why is it that Vietnam, which was so far behind us in 1990, the industries minister came to Sri Lanka and asked me as industries minister, how do we get foreign exchange? Oh, they are going ahead. Not only them, Cambodia is going ahead. Bangladesh is going ahead. So we are grappling with this issue. We are not getting anywhere. Now we have this main issue of how to deal with the US. We are still grappling with it. We have got 30%. You can't survive with 30%. They are going to ask for less. I hope they succeed. But otherwise, now you have to realize one thing. We have never told the US. US is a member of the OCC. And US has signed on to the EFF and the time limits, which means they must help us now. In that game, they also have to, otherwise they are in breach of the agreement. They are preventing from us to repay the bondholders, and we must now tell the IMF, tell the bondholders to go to US and collect the money. Why are we just going and say, we'll buy Coca-Cola from you or we'll buy gas from you? Okay, you are in breach of this.
The former president was speaking at an event in Colombo to launch the book titled Policy Challenges of Globalization in Sri Lanka, penned by Dr. Sarath Rajapatirana.
Reggae legend Alpha Blondie, on his first ever visit to the island, made a special appearance at the Department Broadcasting Centre in Pannipitia.
In a highly anticipated moment for music lovers across Sri Lanka, legendary reggae artist Alpha Blondie made a special appearance today at the Department Broadcasting Centre in Pannipitia. The iconic voice of African reggae joined Shay and Tash on Yes 101 evenings, bringing his signature reggae vibes to listeners nationwide. This landmark broadcast marks a momentous occasion, building excitement for his upcoming historic performance.
This special edition of Yes 101 Evenings with Shay and Tash, we welcome a name that is reggae royalty.
Alpha Blondie, accompanied by his band The Solar System, is set to perform for the very first time in Sri Lanka on the 19th of July at the Air Force Grounds in Colombo. This concert promises fans an unforgettable night of music. Yes 101 is the official media partner for this groundbreaking event.
Up next is Corporate Brief.
Anywhere, a quarterly luxury business and lifestyle magazine uniquely positioned to connect Sri Lanka's leading entrepreneurs both at home and abroad with emerging ventures and creative voices, was launched in Colombo.
Anywhere is more than just a magazine. It's a symbol of everything I believe that the next generation of Sri Lankan entrepreneurs can bring to the world. Bold ideas, refined aesthetics, fresh energy, and global ambition.
Anywhere is now yours. It is your curiosity, your taste, your drive for something meaningful that inspired every page. Let this be more than a publication. Let this be a movement, a bridge between tradition and transformation, a space where ambition, commerce, and art can coexist.
Israel's military struck in the Syrian Defense Ministry in Damascus and government forces in southern Syria for the third day on Wednesday as deadly fighting in the mostly Druze province of Suweda continued.
Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said it was, quote-unquote, working to save our Druze brothers. Interim Syrian President Ahmad al-Shara accused Israel of causing a large-scale escalation. More than 350 people are reported to have been killed since Sunday when clashes between Druze militias and Bedouin tribes erupted in Suweda. The Syrian military reportedly began to withdraw its forces from Suweda late on Wednesday as the US said it had agreed steps to end the violence. US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said, quote, "We have agreed on specific steps that will bring this troubling and horrifying situation to an end tonight," end quote. Syria state news agency Sana reported that troops were leaving Suweda as part of an agreement between the government and the Suweda's religious leaders following the completion of the army's pursuit of outlaw groups. The Syrian Foreign Ministry said the country welcomes the efforts made by the US and Arabian sides to resolve the current crisis peacefully. Syria's interim president has said it is his priority to protect the country's Druze citizens after Israel vowed to destroy government forces it accused of attacking members of the religious minority in Suweda province. In his first televised statement since Israel's airstrike on Damascus on Wednesday, Ahmad al-Shara also warned that Syrians were not afraid of war. Syrian state media reported that the military was withdrawing from Suweda under a ceasefire agreement with Druze leaders, but it is not clear whether that will hold.
And with that, we wrap up news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.